Hello, welcome back to Dr. Darnice's lifestyle channel and salon. Listen, I said I was going to be back with some wisdom tips from your Gen X auntie. That's me. Gen X, 1964 to 1979. Okay, so somebody's got to tell it. Somebody's got to say it. And I said in my last video that I was going to start using my channel to say some things that are maybe hard to hear, but also uplifting. Because our society is coming undone, it's coming unraveled in a lot of ways, and we can do something about it. So, I'm always about that. I'm an idealist, really. So I know we have the ability to make things better. So today, what am I talking about? The children. What children? Everybody's children, all the children are in trouble in our society. Have you noticed? Teachers are quitting coast to coast. Teachers are quitting. I'm an educator. I'm a college professor. I've been teaching for almost 20 years. Almost 20 years. And I can see the difference between when I started and where we are now. Those young people were millennials coming into college. So I'm pretty much always talking about this age group between 18 and 22, roughly 17, because a lot of young people start college when they're 17 through 22. And let me tell you something, there's a struggle. There's a struggle with Gen Z now. Millennials had their thing, but millennials, especially those older millennials who were born in 1980, like the early 80s, if your kid was born in the early 80s or you were born in the early 80s and you're an older millennial, they're calling themselves grand millennials now. I think you got it. You're now where you're in the pace, right? You have to mature. Gen Z, they don't know how to mature. And our society is struggling. So the children are a reflection of our society. It's not like these children are just terrible people, like where they come from, right? They come from us. The children need guidance. As an educator, I can tell you they're not equipped to deal with real world circumstances. They're not equipped to deal with responsibility and consequences. And that's disastrous when they get to be 19, 20 years old and they don't understand responsibility and consequences and they want to resist it and they still think that they should get an A or they still think they should succeed. That's a problem. If you're a parent and you have young children, well, of any age, you have children of any age, it's really up to you. You've got to guide your children. You've got to be a disciplinarian. You've got to have rules. You've got to give them responsibilities, chores. They've got to understand that there's consequences if they don't do what you tell them to do. They've got to come to school and be prepared to respect the authority of their teachers and school administrators. Who turned it over to the children to run anything? In what world and what society did the children run anything? The adults have to guide the children. And adults have been failing at it. Our society is obviously going through a great upheaval. And it's like we left the children behind to just fend for themselves, and they're literally fending for themselves, and they don't know what to do with themselves. It is up to us to get these kids together. It is up to you as a parent, or anybody with kids in their life, to help them get educated properly. You see, we live in a country that says Black history isn't even important anymore. Black lives don't matter really. Black history doesn't matter really. So if you are a parenting figure to some Black children, it is your responsibility to make sure that they have some Black books in their home about Black history, books written by Black authors. It's your responsibility as a a parent, a guardian, a grandparent, an uncle, an aunt, an older cousin. If you're not going to do it, who's going to do it? The school should do it? That's laughable. They don't even want to teach Black history. They barely want to teach anything. Schools are public schools? Public schools. You're waiting for public schools to teach your children. You see how that's working out? Black history? They don't care about that. Clearly, why would you leave it to a structurally racist system to educate your children and you don't have any books at home? You're not sitting down with your kids, going through their work with them, seeing what they're doing, seeing what they're not doing. You don't know any of the teachers until there's a problem, and then you go to school and want to argue with the teachers and the administrators. That's not the way. And teachers are leaving because we've had it. We're not dealing with this. You know, they don't pay teachers enough, right? And it's a challenge when you're a parent because maybe you got more than one kid, you got to work, you got all these things going on. True enough, but that's always been the case. There's never been a time when that's not the case. There's never been a time when that's not the case. So at some point, the society is leaving the kids behind. Parents are overwhelmed or just not taking an interest in what their children are doing. So when I say we've got to get the kids together, that means that as a parent, grandparent, or whoever, you maybe got to come off the phone yourself, get off the internet yourself, get up from the couch and Netflix and do something with your kid because they're failing. They're not ready for the society. What does our society do with people who don't fit in or don't um, know how to get along? What does the society do with young people or anybody for that matter? There's a place for them. It's called prison, the prison industrial complex. They'll take your kid because your kid doesn't understand how to listen to any kind of authority. They don't know how to. They don't understand that there's a repercussion to their actions. Now, you know, some of you had the talk, right? You had to talk with your kids because you have to have the talk with your kids when they're out in public. And, you know, if you're a black kid, you know, when the police come, there's a certain way you have to behave, like it or not. We know that it's unfair. We know it's unfair already, but you know, you got to have a talk. And so I'm saying if you're having that talk, but you're not having the talk with your kids about what's expected of them and what's expected of them when they go to school, then you're not equipping them to succeed. The kids are struggling. They can't fix it themselves. They literally cannot fix it themselves. They need guidance and support. So where are you as a parent, grandparent, uh, auntie, cousins, everybody? The village. And that's why I'm saying this. As Gen X at my age range, it's part of my responsibility too. So I'm going to make these videos, right? I keep teaching in the classroom. I haven't given it up yet. And I'm going to make some videos and talk to people and say, you know what? You might be thinking that the kids are all right, but they're not. They have anxiety. They don't know how to deal with the world. They don't know, like, oh, you mean when you said that I had to turn that assignment in on Friday, that I really had to turn it in on Friday because I thought I could turn it in whenever I wanted to before the end of the semester. No, you have to turn it in on Friday. Well, if I didn't do well on it, can I do it again? No, you can't do it again. Well, what if I woke up and I'm having a bad day? Do I still have to come to class? Okay, so that's the kind of thing I get. I get emails from young people who are telling me things. They're way oversharing about their personal mental health, about their family circumstances. They tell me way too much and they don't understand, like, okay, you may be going through all those things, but life still expects some things from you. And as you grow up, you understand that you have to deal with multiple things at the same time. But kids are crumbling because they don't understand that. And they're still looking for mommy and daddy to make it okay. Somebody else is going to come and save me, right? Somebody else is going to make this okay, but none of this is fair, right? So we can't leave our kids out here. We cannot. They also need some discipline. They need discipline. You can't just have your kid out here. Well, she doesn't want to do it, so I don't make her do it. Since when? They have to have some discipline. And actually, we know that when kids don't have any kind of discipline or sense of responsibility, they feel neglected. They feel ignored. They feel like nobody cares about what they do. They feel actually centered and seen and heard, when people care enough to check their homework, when people care enough to ask where they are, or how things going with them. They want to feel like somebody cares. They need discipline. They need to learn respect for authority. Hmm. They need responsibilities, chores, and to know what the consequences are if they don't do them. Because the larger society has no tolerance. Has no tolerance. And if you're black or brown, you're going to prison. You got to get the kids together. Give your kids also creative, unscheduled time. Some of these kids come to college and they are used to having their days scheduled for them so tightly. They had activity after activity after activity. They don't know what to do with themselves they don't know how to be like by themselves. They don't know how to be quiet. They yearn for it, but they don't know how. So if you've got young kids, give them some time where they don't have to be doing anything, right? Just let them play. Just let them relax for some amount of time, right? Decide, okay, you got an hour on your own, then we're going to have dinner or whatever. Anyway, we got to take care of these kids because it's not just a matter of um, saying that they're bad, right? That's not going to fix anything. It's a matter of saying we need for our kids to do well. We need for them to feel secure. We need for them to matriculate into society so that they have a good life. Right now, they've been left by the wayside and they act like it. You see how kids act? Teachers see how kids act and we're like, we're not dealing with that. We're not dealing with that. That's your kid and your kid doesn't know how to behave. They can be expelled or I can quit my job. And people say, well, okay, if you're in the profession of teaching and you don't know how to deal with kids, it's not that we don't know how to deal with kids. The kids have not been taught that they should respect anything that their educators tell them. The kids have been taught that they don't have to listen to a teacher. Also, think about this. If all the teachers quit, where's your kid going to school? Because sometimes I'm like, do people really? Well, I know that some schools across the country, they're having, teachers are having the teachers who remain have larger class sizes, which is not good for a kid. Um, some, I've seen this on the news, some classrooms don't have a teacher at all. So you have a bunch of students in there who now suddenly have a study hall because they don't have a teacher. That means your kid isn't learning. Your child is not learning. You think that they know how to read well? No, they don't. Do you think they know how to do math well? No, they don't. And they're not going to catch up. Some parents are here like, oh, well, they'll figure it out. They'll catch up. Kids don't. Did you catch up when you didn't know something? I struggled so much with algebra. So much. It doesn't, don't just suddenly wake up the next day and be like, well, I fully understand algebra. They need help and guidance. So we can't just leave them like, oh, okay, well, teachers are leaving. Okay, well, I'm still going to send my kid to school, which means they sit unattended for hours at a time and think everything's going to be okay. They're not going to be okay. So this is your Gen X auntie, or uh, I don't know what else you might want to say, college educator, to share with you some information that I've gotten from teaching all these years. Somebody has to say it. It's time to get our kids together. And if you know that you're overwhelmed as a parent, grandparent, whatever, you got to do something about that. Your kids are paying for it. Ultimately, our whole society pays for it. So give me some feedback. Let me know what kind of situations you see going on in your neighborhood, in your schools. Are you an educator? What you see going on? Because teachers are leaving. Teachers are fed up. And your kid is going to suffer for it. So what you going to do? The village has to come together. That's what I'm saying. The village has to come together and take care of our kids. All right, leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Bye for now.